Welcome to the 10-Minute Life Coach Program. My name is Jay Clifton Payne. I'm a personal development coordinator, and I assist people who are ready for improvement in developing their personal and professional goals into tangible, focused, and achievable plans of action. And this is one of the tools I use to help make that happen. The purpose of this podcast is to give you a quick 10-minute lesson. The full podcast may go 12, 13 minutes with some salesy stuff at the end to give you a life lesson, a personal development lesson, a work lesson, if you will, that you can take right when you're done listening and apply to yourself or your life immediately to get more things done. Now, sometimes it doesn't seem to translate that way. Sometimes it'll turn into something that seems like something you're already doing, something that hadn't quite formulated yet, and that's a good thing. That means you're on your way, you're on the path to a great thing. You're already doing something, and this is your proof that your choice should be a fairly good choice, and it should work out with a little bit of determination and time put into it. For more information on the podcast, stop by the website 10minutelifecoach.com. One of the duties I have in the many jobs that I do is to help to produce our programs at church. I do a lot of the Sunday morning services, just making sure things are in order, people are in place, and that everything that we're supposed to have, including sometimes a sermon, is in the right place. And from doing that, I get to talk to a lot of different people, a lot of various diverse people, and we have a pretty diverse church of various different backgrounds and different organizations and different sort of starts before they got to where they are here. And I get to ask them lots of things, including to do things. That often means getting a lot of no's. Now, if you work in any sort of sales, you know that a no is one step closer to a yes. It's one of the things you say about sales. Getting no's is something you have to do because you get enough no's through, you'll get to a yes eventually, and it's just a matter of going through the motions. Only so many people can take in your product or use your service or deal your thing or be at your place. So the sooner you get through all the people who cannot get there, the sooner you can get the people who can actually do good things for you. Now, this is a different perspective on the no's because a no to someone asking someone to fill in to do the announcements for church is one thing. That's one less person I know that can do it so I can move on to someone else who maybe can. What makes a no special in this case, especially when I work on these cases, is what happens if I get a chance to decipher the no's. This is something I learned well back in the day when I was producing the morning talk show for the radio for a while back. It was every single day we had to schedule guests and schedule people and schedule information and get certain things to make it a topical news show every day, which means asking a lot of people, just like I do for church now, if they can be on the air. And sometimes they can and sometimes they can't. What you get from the actual no, what I got from the actual no's back then, was the whys that they were saying no, why they were not coming on. Maybe it's a scheduling issue. Okay, we can schedule for a different time. Maybe it's a topic issue. Okay, maybe you'll talk on this topic if we promise not to go into this real hot red button thing. You'll give us a little time on the main topic if we don't go into that controversial thing. Maybe you want to talk to controversy, but we really need some background on something here. Maybe you're just very, very shy and you really need encouragement because you have a story that's very important to tell. Getting the chance to decipher the no's, some of them were just really rude jerks that didn't want to be on the radio. Some of them didn't personally like me. Some of them didn't like people that we dealt with on the radio. So that wasn't going to go anywhere, and I learned a lesson and move on from there. But going through people's no's, going through people's whys, going through people's objections is where you see what the underlying issues that many people have in their problems. I use that now for the church services, where every single week I have to find people to do announcements, to do the offerings, people places for various different special events such as communion or baptisms, baby dedications, and even the eventual, pretty much happens every couple of weeks, pastor that goes a bit off script and things go kind of haywire and getting people to get the program back into some semblance of order for a program. Now, I use my church as an example because that's mostly where I spend my time having to slot people in. And so as I talk to new people or different people in the church, I get to know them, number one. But number two, I also get to do what I did back in the radio programming days and figure out why the objections are here and what the problem is. And essentially what my problem is, or in theory here, the problem we have for getting things in the church. The problem may be I don't have a lot of time available, so maybe we can schedule a different time. The problem may be you should have asked me a bit earlier. Okay, next time we think you'll be a great time to have you on, we will ask you a few weeks out and make sure things are on the calendar. Sometimes it's the scope of what they're being asked to do. Sometimes we ask people to do things that they really aren't comfortable doing, and they know they can't do it, but they may step up to do it because you've asked them, and then they find out they're not so good at it, and it's kind of bad on both people's psyche. So we have to make sure that the role we're putting them into, saying hello and welcome versus going over the announcements for the week versus trying to collect money from people, is something that they're up to doing. Some people are more than willing to take a challenge on and may not be as great at it as they think. Some people are scared to take the challenge on, but may actually be a star at it. They just need a bit more practice, a bit more seasoning to get things through. Now, when you're dealing with people in the general and you're asking them to do things or asking them to assist with things or just asking general things and you get no's, that's great, because then you know not to ask that person that same question probably for a while. If you're looking for someone to help you do something and they say no, that's fine. They won't help you. You need to find someone else to do it. But if you have a little extra time, you have a little extra wiggle room to kind of work things going on, look for some feedback. Look for the reason why the no was delivered to you in that time, in that manner, in that fashion for that particular job. If you're trying to move, for example, you need help moving and you ask a bunch of people and they say no, you may find that you don't have as many good friends as you think you do, because good friends supposedly help you move. Once you move a couple times, you realize that moving is kind of a pain in the butt, and you really need really good people, dedicated people to show up to help things happen, people who are willing to put out their back on the line, if you will, to get things done. You may have a very inconvenient time going on. Let's use this move as an example. You've got to move out on a Tuesday in the middle of the day. Most people are working in that part of the day. That's a problem that you need to try to solve. And maybe if you can either delay your move or maybe move it up to a few days earlier on the weekend so people can accommodate it, it is there. You may find that you're asking the wrong people because you're asking the first people you find, and they're not the right people for the job. You may not have the right mindset going on. You may be asking dainty little women, and no offense to dainty little women, but they're not the ones you really want carrying around sofas and bureaus and things like that. You need people who really can help you do the job, the big burly guys that are willing to lift things up, and, of course, finding a couple people with trucks, because that's the real issue with moving. Whenever you have a task that you need to complete and you need the assistance of other people, you have to have the courage to ask those people. You have to have the courage to step up and give them the information they need so they can determine whether they can do it. If they give you a no, well, sometimes it happens. But you also should try to find out, get a little feedback on why you're getting that no, why that objection is coming to you. Because sometimes the objection is easy to overcome with that person. It's just a shift of mindset, shift of time, a shift of thought process, maybe a misunderstanding that you just need to clarify with a couple extra words. Maybe it's the fact that you're asking at the wrong time and you just need to ask again at a different point. If it's something that's a bit more complicated, maybe you need to do some soul searching and figure out what's going on and why no one really wants to play with you. Because sometimes it does come down to us and us being the bearers of bad news to others, which turns ourselves into pretty much problems for other people. If you're a negative down person, you're always asking people to join your inner circle to do something great. Why would they want to join in a person they perceive as a negative down person? That may be something you have to fix first before you can expand on what you have going on. Now, essentially, it all comes down to having the right people around to get the jobs done you need done. And when you're asking for people to put in their manpower and volunteer their efforts and times, you have to be very, very careful of not abusing them in that process. But just like we did, or I did for my church every week, and just like I did back in the day for the radio, I was providing a service and hopefully providing something for them in the process, whether they wanted to do it or not, or had the capacity to do it or not, was something we could work out and see if it comes out on the back end. If it was a great fit for both, awesome. If it wasn't a great fit at the time, maybe it's a time change, maybe it's an issue change, maybe it's just a couple different things that need to be adjusted to make them feel better for the issue. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Forcing square pegs into round holes is never the optimal choice to try to get things done. So if you get a no, it's a solid no, and they don't want to discuss it, don't push. But if you get a chance to decipher what that no is, you have a gift in figuring out why things may or may not be working towards your favor. And thank you very much for joining us for this week's podcast. My name, once again, Jay Cleveland Payne, the host for this podcast and the moderator at the website 10minutelifecoach.com. Check out the website so you can see more of what we have going on with the mission of this podcast, and maybe join in. We're trying to rebuild some of our community stuff so we can have more coaching abilities so we can coach ourselves together. Check it out. We're going to have information on the $10 Life Coach, which is being reformatted and brought back to life, hopefully fairly soon. So that will be at the website, and other information about past podcasts and past things going on at that same website as well, 10minutelifecoach.com. More information on many of my other projects. I unfortunately have too many. I do say unfortunately too many other projects that are sometimes hard to contain and keep up with. They are listed, and mostly their current states of affairs. Some need to be updated at the website, jclevelandpayne.net. Check it out for more information there. And, of course, you can contact me anytime you want to. The best way to do it is via email. jclevelandpayne@gmail.com is my main all-day long overly checked email where I'm always scrolling through for things that pop up there. But it gets a little bit spammy, so that's your warning. If it's a business deal, something more online, some professional things, you can send it to info@jclevelandpayne.net, and we'll get to it as quickly as we can and get back to you as quickly as possible. This is where I thank you profusely for listening to the podcast, because the podcast doesn't exist without you. I could talk to myself in a closet all day long without having to deal with any equipment and technical stuff, but I do it because I love to do this, and I love you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of the community. You can help me out by giving a rating and review at wherever you get your podcast from. We're all over the place: iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, various different podcatchers are out there, or just leave a message at our website on this episode's number so you can we can know what to do better and what to not do so much of, because we know they're not all perfect, and some good feedback and bad feedback is always good. Just like we said, it's a gift to figure out how you can decipher that no. So whatever we're not doing for you well, let us know so we can do a better job of it. Of course, the big thing you can do is make sure you're subscribed to however you want to get this podcast, and check us out next week for another, hopefully, great 10-minute lesson, and then a little, bookkeeping at the back end from the 10-Minute Life Coach.